Hello, the following is another video with tips on how to administer the Trauma and Behavioral Health Screen, or TBH, as an interview. Remember, caseworkers will normally hand the TBH to the caregivers and the children for them to fill out themselves. But once in a while, you will be working with a caregiver who is not able to read the TBH on their own. In this video, we'll show you an example of an elderly grandmother who is not able to read the screen. The grandmother is taking care of her teenage granddaughter. The teenager was abused by her mother and the mother's boyfriend. At the beginning of the video, she will be talking about her granddaughter who is afraid that her mother and mother's boyfriend will come back to the house to kidnap her.
Does thinking about these things seem to upset her a lot?
Oh, yes.
And is this still happening in the last 2 weeks where she's thinking about these things a lot?
She says, Grandma, I want to get it off my mind, but sometimes it just gets in the way. She says, I have this feeling, Grandma, they're going to come back during the night in the house to get me. That's why I don't want to sleep.
Okay, so the next question is actually, since those events, has she had trouble falling asleep or staying asleep?
She don't go to sleep till in the mornings. Now, she will sleep as long as I'm up, piddling in the house. She'll sleep all during the day. At night when I go to sleep, it's, oh no, I'll not go to bed, no. But she'll constantly wake me up and just say, Grandma, I love you. To know that I'm able to answer her or help her if they try to break in or something.
Okay. So does she have more trouble sleeping now than she used to before all these things happened?
Yes, she used to sleep well.
You'll notice that this grandmother gets it, that the girl's fear of sleeping is related to her post-traumatic stress symptoms. This is a good example of why we ask caseworkers to give the TBH screens within the first 30 days of opening new cases. We know that a lot of times foster parents will not know their new foster children very well in those first 30 days, and they will not be able to provide entirely accurate answers about their PTSD symptoms. Nevertheless, by administering the TBH, foster parents can better learn what to look for. Sometimes foster parents believe that children won't go to sleep because they are being willful or defiant, and they haven't made the connection that they won't go to sleep because they are afraid. The TBH can be an educational tool to teach caregivers what to look for and to understand their children better.
And it's still happening in the last 2 weeks that she doesn't sleep?
Since she's been back with me, she don't sleep at night.
Since the events, has she had a lot of nightmares?
She says she has dreams constantly.
Okay, are they upsetting dreams?
She says she dreamt her mama was in the lake last week, dead. What other dreams she told me? She said she dreamt this man was killing her mom.
Does she have more nightmares or upsetting dreams than she used to before all this happened?
She been having them regular.
And so in the last 2 weeks, she still has these dreams?
Yes.
Okay, since the events, has she ever said that she felt like she was reliving what happened, like it was happening all over again? So is she having flashbacks of what happened?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay, and how do you know that she's doing that? How can you tell?
Remember, in the training videos, we discussed how we teach educational interviewing, while other teachers may have taught you not to lead the witness. If you are concerned that a respondent is saying yes to a symptom, but the child may not really have that symptom, your fail-safe is that you can always ask for an example. The respondent has to be able to give you an example of the symptom to convince you that a yes is really a yes. If the example is not convincing to you, you can mark the item as no.
She'll sit down by herself and just stare into space. You could be talking to her or asking her a question. You don't get no answer. You gotta call 4 or 5 times to get her attention.
Is that still happening in the last 2 weeks where she has those spells?
Yes,
Since the events, have there been certain things that usually made her remember what happened? So, like if she sees somebody that looks like her mom or the boyfriend, or she goes by any of the places where any of the stuff happened?
When she go to the grocery, she be looking for him because a lot of people say they've been seeing her mother and him together. She be looking, expecting them anytime.
Okay.
But I gave her a phone to call me, and now she goes to one grocery. I send her to one grocery that has cameras in the store in case they would attack her.
The interviewer is trying to ask about the PTSD symptom of psychological distress at reminders of the traumatic events. The grandmother does not seem to understand the question because it sounds like she is describing hypervigilance instead. This confusion can happen a lot in PTSD interviews, which is why we teach this educational interviewing technique. Psychological distress at reminders of traumatic events is a complicated symptom with multiple components. The respondent is being asked if an event in the present day is a reminder of an event in the past, and if that reminder causes the person to be upset. If the respondent has never had PTSD themselves, they would not have prior experience with that type of symptom. Next, the interviewer is going to redirect the grandmother and educate her more about the symptom.
Are there things that remind her of what happened, like places, people, or even smells?
She meets people. She met one lady that knew the mother. She knew what had happened. She met her at the grocery.
All right, so what this question is asking is if there's anything that would remind her of what happened that would upset her thinking about it. Like, for example, in regard to Hurricane Katrina. When there are storms, people remember or think about Katrina, and it upsets them, even if it's just a regular storm.
Of course.
So it's that same kind of idea. So if a man attacked me, all men might remind me of what happened. Or if I passed by the place that it happened, then it might remind me of what happened.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay, so you're not sure.
No, I'm not sure.
So what happens if you try to talk to her about it? Does she want to talk about it, or will she just say no?
She will talk about it now and then to me, but sometimes when she's getting ready to talk about it, she'll change her mind. And she'll say, "Oh, Grandma, no, forget about it."
So this is a tricky one. The interviewer is asking about the PTSD symptom of avoidance to think about or talk about traumatic events. When the granddaughter tells the grandmother, "No, forget about it," this might mean that she does not get upset from talking about it and she does not have the PTSD symptom. Or this might mean that she does get upset from talking about it and she does have the PTSD symptom. I can't tell from the information we have so far. To be really sure, you would have to ask an additional question as to whether talking about it upsets her or not.
But if my phone rings, any phone in the house rings, oh, you got trouble on your hands. She goes off, thinking it's them. She said, "I don't want to talk to my mama about nothing, and I don't want to talk to her boyfriend about nothing."
The phone ringing is another tricky one. The girl might be upset because the phone is a reminder of being abused and she has the PTSD symptom of distress at reminders. Or the girl might be upset by the phone ringing simply because she does not want to see her mother and she has good judgment to stay away from someone who mistreated her, which would not be a PTSD symptom. To be sure whether this is a symptom or not, you would have to ask an additional question as to whether the phone ringing brings up the old memories, which is what upsets her. This type of confusion can also come up with children in your caseload when they have visits with their parents. They may not want to have these visits because they serve as reminders of their trauma, and this indicates PTSD symptoms. Or they may not want to go on the visits because they are simply concerned for their safety and have good judgment, which is not a PTSD symptom. We know that untangling these issues takes some extra time, but in the long run, it should pay off as both you and the caregivers of these children get to know them better. Thanks for watching.